please introduce yourself to my audience. Let them know who you are and what you do.
Okay, great. So my name is David Ogunshola. I introduce myself as an innovation catalyst. It's not a regular job description or a regular title that people get to know, but summarily what I do is I inspire creativity and innovation, and I choose to focus among younger people. When I say younger people, my niche is 5 to 16 years old. Wow. So I consider myself a children's innovation catalyst. Of course, that menu has a lot of ingredients. So my first degree was in computer science.
Okay.
I started out as a software developer, worked for a couple of software companies. Then I went to study organizational leadership. I have a Master of Arts in organizational leadership. And then I went to study education. I have a Master's of Education.
Interesting.
So I combine, and then I've worked in different places. My first job at Deloitte. I mean, I've moved around places, worked in different industries, in consulting, in education, in retail. And right now, so I'm a tech founder, I'm an education entrepreneur, and I'm a STEM educator. My vision is how do I help young people to get the right ingredients early so that they can begin to contribute to their communities and to their nation. Africa is a very young continent.
Yes.
50% of this country is below 9, of the continent is below 19.
Yeah.
40% below 14. If we will prosper as a continent, if we will prosper as a people, the Black race, we need to focus on that younger generation. 50% below 19 seems to be an ignored demographic. Most of our trainings, education, entrepreneurship programs, grants, everything seems to be focused on adults, whereas half the continent
are below.
Yeah. So we are going down to meet them there. That's what I do.
Wow. See, I wanted to ask you what you meant when you introduced yourself as a software engineer who became a teacher. Okay. Now I understand it. Okay. I understand it, but I want you to dig into it a little bit for the benefit of my audience. Now, why did you decide to get a master's in education? Because normally somebody who is already a teacher, okay, will now see software engineers and say, wow, I want to be that. But you went the other way, okay? You were a software engineer, and then you saw teaching and say, I want to be that. See, I come from a home, my parents were teachers, okay? My mother retired as a headmistress, okay? So I know what teachers, educators do, okay? And I admire that, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, okay? But you, from a software engineer to teacher, please tell us, how did that happen?
Okay, so I got married in 2013, and my wife is a teacher. So my wife studied early childhood education, first degree, master's degree, PhD.
Wow.
So she has 3 degrees. She went all out to be a teacher. When we got married, her passion was to be a teacher. Mine was just to be a tech guy. So I was a tech founder. So when we got married in 2013, both of us started our companies. She started a daycare center that eventually was becoming a school. I launched a software company. And so all I was doing was just providing support to our school. Though we founded the school together. In fact, we wrote the business plan before we even got married. Okay. We had no one to do. So yes, we're both founders of the school technically on paper, but it was her brainchild, her idea. Mine was just support her with technology, strategy, whatever technology can do to give her wings. One day I was working in my office and I stumbled on an information that shattered the rest of my life. And that was 2017. 5 countries in the world had passed legislation that computer programming should be taught from elementary school. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute, what is this? This is not, they are not suggesting it, it's now legislation. Meaning in those 5 countries, basic literacy is reading, writing, coding. And I'm like, hold on, I learned to code in the university. These kids are learning to code in primary too. How do we stand a chance to compete? And now I'm thinking, we're running a school. If we're preparing our children, our students to compete globally, what chance do they stand if they're going to meet kids, they're going to learn in university what these kids learn in primary school. I realized that no, if we're going to face the future, we have to focus on these kids early. So that was my pull into the education system.
Wow.
And I decided to go start teaching. I said, okay, I'm going to start teaching these kids to code. And initially, it was like a side gig. You know what? Just a hobby. Let me just go and teach these kids in my spare time. And I began teaching them, began exploring, looking for resources. I just followed the trail, what's available. And as I continued, I realized there was a major gap. No books, no resources. And I began to order books. I started buying books from the US on Amazon, expensive books, just so that I could teach kids, but I couldn't find a curriculum. Then I began to travel, just curiosity. Went around the continent, went to Nairobi, went to Kigali. What are you guys? What's available anywhere? And I discovered there was not even an existing curriculum for children on the continent.
Wow.
And I'm like, hold on, somebody has to respond to this problem.
Yeah.
How are we going to compete? And that's, I mean, for me, so it's just been a trail, and I began to build. As I was teaching, I was practically building my curriculum. Each day I'm going to class, I sit down, what do I teach these kids? Build a lesson. And that's when I began to take lessons on teaching. How do I teach? How do I connect with children at 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? How do I break down computer programming concepts for 7-year-olds, loops, algorithms, conditionals? And I began to study, began to go for conferences, and I realized I was already writing a curriculum. Then I began to ask myself, who's going to, my curriculum needed legitimacy. Even if I know what I have written, even if I know what I have built, people are going to ask, who is this guy? Who qualified him to write a textbook that we should listen to? I had to go back to school.
Oh.
So it's been one. So, right now, I early coding for kids. I am yet to see another one. I don't want to say it's the first in Africa, but I want to be proven wrong. I'm not yet seen another curriculum that teaches children to code. I've written 5 textbooks so far, working on 6 and 7 right now, that teach children to code from age 5.
Wow.
And schools when I go to show them to schools, and they're like, where have you been all these years? Because it's been a need that nobody had courage